paper.
This is a past paper, yes.
Yes, I've done one of these.
Where did you find it?
My mom actually found it.
Okay, so now we're going to have a look at some past paper questions. And the big thing about this lesson is that I want you to see how to look at the questions. Okay, so the first question says there's a giant panda that lives in China, and the diagram shows a simple food web involving the panda. Now, if we look at the food web, then you'll see there's a bamboo plant, and the panda feeds on the plant. But also there's water plants with snails feeding on the water plants, fish feeding on the snails, and the giant panda feeding on the fish as well. Is all of this making sense?
Yes.
Okay. You know that when you have the arrows indicated here, then the arrow doesn't show that the bamboo plant is eating the giant panda. It shows the giant panda is eating the bamboo plant.
Yeah.
Okay. So name one producer in this food web. What is a producer?
Producers are normally like your plants, but it could be any organism that can make its own food.
Yes. Okay. So in this case, what would be the producers?
The bamboo plant or the water plant.
Yes. Okay. They said name one, so you just had to name one of them. Okay. The next one says name one primary consumer in this food web. What is a primary consumer?
Primary consumer is like your consumer, the first consumer that is your producer. So like in this example, it would be the snail or the giant panda.
Well done. Okay, so your primary consumer feeds off the producer. A secondary consumer would be feeding off a primary consumer. Okay, well done. Use the information in the food web to explain why the panda is described as an omnivore. So,
Okay, so the giant panda, we can see that it's an omnivore because omnivores are organisms that eat both plants and meat. So in this case, the giant panda eats the bamboo plant, which is a plant, and then the fish, which is the meat. So it's an omnivore.
well done, very good. Okay, the next question says many of the bamboo forests in China are being cut down. Okay, so do you know what a bamboo forest looks like?
Yeah, they like tall, slender kind of trees, I think.
Yeah,
Like
okay.
yeah.
So the panda, what you have to understand here is the panda live in these bamboo forests. And what is a panda? Panda is a type of bear, am I right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the panda lives in these bamboo forests. So it's both food to the panda and what?
Habitat.
Habitat. Okay. So these bamboo forests are being cut down. Okay. This is causing the panda population to decrease. Suggest why. So they're telling you the bamboo forests are being cut down. They're telling you the panda population decreases. Why?
Okay, well, like you said, it's habitat. So while the bamboo forests are being cut down, they are losing their source of habitat. So this could lead to migrating to new areas, which will also decrease. But also, their bamboo is their source of food. So a decrease in food would lead to more deaths, and then obviously you decrease in your population.
Okay. I'm very glad that you understand it and you've got a very good understanding of it. What I want you to pay attention to now is how many marks is this question for?
Oh, one.
1 mark. Okay. Now, in the biology, for every mark that they want to give you, they want one fact.
Okay.
Okay. If this was for 2 marks, then they wanted two separate facts. Then they wanted you to mention that it's habitat destruction and the food source is decreasing. So there's not enough food. Okay, so for 1 mark, you can just mention one of those. Okay, if you want to, you can mention both, but that will one fact will give you 1 mark. Okay, if it was for 2 marks, you could not mention that it was cutting down the habitat and explain that whole process of the panda migrating, or they dying because there's no habitat or something like that. That would not give you a 2nd mark. That's elaboration of the first fact. Okay, so that would, unless they say explain this fact, then they'll give marks for an explanation. If they don't say explain, then they want 2 separate facts for 2 marks. So just keep that in mind. Okay. So, sorry, what I want to say here is you've got a very good understanding, but if you had to write down all of that you've just mentioned, that would take up quite a bit of time. Okay, there's no problem in writing it down. If you've got enough space, you can write it down. But be careful not to write down too much stuff and in the end not be able to finish your paper. Okay, so it's a fine line and it's not critical at this point. It's not critical at checkpoint level. When you get to IGCSE level, you'll see that we practice this a lot more. Okay, you get a lot more practice in terms of having a look at the mark allocations and what you need to write. And I'll in the assignments that you do, there's you do a first few chapters and then there's assignments on past paper questions. And every time on that assignment, I will indicate to you if you're writing too much or if there's not enough facts mentioned or things like that. So then you'll get enough practice on that.
Okay.
Okay, next question. Christina has 5 chickens. Here is some information about her chickens. So there's the names of the chickens, the sex of the chickens, and the number of eggs that they lay per year. Christina wants to increase the number of eggs per year by using selective breeding. Okay, now what's important here is that she wants to increase. And what does she want to increase? The eggs that's laid per year. How does she do that? By selective breeding. Okay, so you have to know what is selective breeding. What is selective breeding?
It's when there's also, okay, wait, I'm not gonna say that. Okay, selective breeding is when you take one breed of animal and humans choose the characteristics and features they want and breed another animal to make a new organism. Is that right?
Okay, but you should keep it within the same species. So it's taking chickens and taking whatever characteristic you want from the chickens and then breeding the 2 chickens with the strongest genes for that characteristic so that their offspring will show that characteristic. And then from the offspring, you choose the ones showing the characteristic that you want best, and then you breed with them. So it's humans that have control over choose what feature is it that you want in your so what, let's say we take the chicken. So I as a human say that I want chickens that they lay lots of eggs. So then I'm working towards that and all the time getting chickens to mate that gives me lots of eggs. So those genes are carried forward. Okay, I can also choose that I want chickens that is speckled. So then I'm only going to breed with the speckled chickens. Okay, so you as a human, selective breeding is about a human controlling the feature that you want the animals to carry forward. Okay, so here it says they want to increase the eggs. That's the feature that they want. Now the humans are taking control of that, so we can make the choices. Then it says which 2 chickens should be bred together. Okay, we want to increase the number of eggs. So which chickens out of those 5 should we then breed together?
Lamb, the male, and then coo, the female.
Why coo?
Because coo has the most number of eggs, and we are wanting to increase the eggs.
Well done, very good.
Okay.
Christina chooses chickens to breed from the offspring. Okay, so the offspring is the babies. Now lamb and coo, yeah. Lamb and coo bred, they now have babies. So which ones of these babies will she choose to breed again?
What does that mean? Okay, hold on. So lamb and coo, they've been bred and they have an offspring. Then which ones would she choose? So does it mean she would choose a what?
They want to know from her offspring, which chickens will she choose to keep on breeding if her goal is to have as many eggs as possible?
Wouldn't she use the other ones then? The other
No,
because she's a
no, because it says from the offspring. Okay, they didn't tell us what the offspring is. So yeah, you just need to realize that it's the offspring producing the most eggs that she will then continue to breed with.
okay.
Does that make sense?
Kind of.
Christina chooses chickens to breed from the offspring. So we're
Yeah.
dealing with the offspring of lamb and coo. Okay. We don't know what they are. We don't have names for them. We don't know anything about them. Okay. All we know is that she wants to increase the number of eggs laid per year. Okay. So if she has to choose from the offspring, the chickens that she wants to continue to breed with, which ones would she choose? She would choose the ones laying the most eggs. So what would happen is she would typically have all the offspring, so all the baby chickens, have them breeding and see which one lays the most eggs, and then takes that hen and specifically goes and breeds with her.
Oh, okay. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, because like I was confusing it, because you know you have the lamb and coo. I was thinking she meant which one of the table above would she choose. That's why I was confused. But now I see what you mean by the offspring. So
The
okay,
offspring is lamb and coo's babies, basically.
okay. Oh, sorry. I
Nope.
really misunderstood that one. Sorry.
No, that's no problem, and that's where most of the students will lose their mark because they will be confused as to exactly what's being asked here. Okay. Other qualities can be used when selective. Other qualities can be used when selectively breeding chickens. Tick the 2 qualities that are most useful. Okay. The size of the eggs. Do you think that will be useful or not?
Yes.
Yes, okay, so we're first going to have a look at all of them and then we're going to come back and make our ticks. Okay, the amount of milk produced, will that have an effect?
No, not really.
Does chickens produce milk?
No.
Okay, so no. Low life expectancy. What does this
What?
mean?
That could have an effect.
Okay, but what 2 qualities that are most useful?
Okay, so then that won't affect it.
Okay, most useful, it will be positive in other words. Low life expectancy, they're dying soon. No can do. Number of feathers, is that going to be useful?
No.
No. The color of the feathers.
Nope.
Resistance to diseases.
Yes.
Yes, that will have an effect. Okay, so which ones do we have here? Oh, we've got 2 of them. So then we know that it's that one and that one.
Okay.
Making sense? Use the key to identify the coral reef fish. Okay, so here's our fish. The first point says, the shape is very long and very thin, or is the shape not long and thin?
Shape is not long and thin.
Okay, so that tells us to go to number 3. Okay, so then we skip 2, we go to 3. The eyes are on top of the head or the eyes on the side of the head?
On the side of the head.
Okay, so on the side of the head, that means go to number 5. It has stripes or it doesn't have stripes?
Has stripes.
Okay, so that tells us to go to number 6. Then it says it has dark tips to the fins and tail, or it does not have dark tips to the fins and tail?
It does.
So then what fish is it?
Your clownfish.
Yes. Okay. So these are very simple, but you need to read carefully and look carefully at the picture given to you.
Okay.
Okay. Poor diets can cause health problems. Draw a line between the diet and the health problem. The first one was done for you. So too much fat will cause heart disease. What will too much sugar cause? Tooth decay, high blood pressure, little energy, or poor growth?
Tooth decay.
Good. Too much salt. Will it cause high blood pressure, little energy, or poor growth?
High blood pressure.
Okay, when you draw these lines, make sure that it touches this block, touches that block, and it's drawn with a ruler. Okay. Too little protein. Will that give me little energy or poor growth?
Poor growth.
Good. Too little carbohydrates. So what's left?
Little energy.
Very good. Okay. Chen and Lee look at information about the amount of fat and fiber in different foods. Okay, so they're looking at the amount of fat and fiber, and we're working with fruits. Then it says the different fruits. It gives us the fat content in grams and the fiber content in grams. Name the 2 fruits with the highest amount of fiber. So which one are we looking at? Fat or fiber?
So it would be pineapple and banana.
Well done, because those 2 shows the highest number. Okay, well done. Why is the fiber important in the diet?
Okay, I have a long explanation, but I'm going to listen to what you said, and I saw that it's 1 mark. So fiber prevents constipation.
Perfect, and you'll get your mark.
You see, that's what that's what, like, I like to elaborate. So, like, if I was to write that in a normal test, I would be too scared that I wouldn't get the mark. So, is that alright? Fiber prevents constipation, just like that.
Just like that is fine. What you can mention for a little bit extra is to say that the fiber assists with the peristalsis taking place, and that's why it prevents constipation.
Okay.
But having more than that is completely unnecessary. Okay. Write one conclusion about the amount of fat found in fruits. So if we have a look here, what can they say conclusion. So you draw a conclusion from what you're seeing here. So what conclusion can we come to if we look at the fat content?
There's almost like a pattern where you have 0.1, 0.1, 0.0, and then 0.1, 0.1, 0.0. So, like, there's very little fat in the fruits.
Okay. Yes, you eventually came to the answer, but a pattern doesn't have any, it's not applicable to the question. Okay, because they could have listed the kiwi fruit first. There's no reason why the fruit needs to be in that order. Okay, if it was numbers, So 1, 2, 3, yes. Then there's you can work about patterns. But this is just listing a whole bunch of fruit. So the next person can list them in a different order, thank you. And therefore a pattern won't apply. But what we can say is we compare, all of this is either 0.0 or 0.1. And look at this side, it's 1.2, 3.1, 2.6, 13.8. So these numbers are much larger than this one. So the conclusion we can come to is that there's not a lot of fat in fruits. Okay. Do you understand how I got there and why I'm saying what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay. Chen thinks the information in the table is not a fair comparison because the fruits are different shapes. Okay. Lise thinks it's not fair but knows that the shape is not important. What measurement do they need to make it a fair comparison? Okay, so we know that it's not the shapes. Okay, whether you a block or a circle is not going to determine your content. Okay,
Yeah.
but what will make this more fair?
I think you could use more fruits, like have more fruits to compare in case they have more fat.
Okay, but remember, you're now comparing an apricot, which is smaller than a golf ball, against an orange, which is larger than a cricket ball, or against a pineapple, which is about 2 cricket balls. So is the fruit the same? A pineapple will obviously contain a lot more fiber because it's a lot bigger. Okay, so you need, in order to get this to be a fair comparison, fair comparing an apricot to a pineapple, I would say rather use the same sample sizes. So use the same amount or the same volume of apricot and pineapple that's being tested. Or the same weight of your sample sizes are the same weight or the same volume. That would give you a fair comparison. Then you have got 1 centimeters cube of apricot compared to 1 centimeters cube of pineapple, and then you can compare and see which one has the higher fiber content. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes.
And remember, if they ask you how you can improve on an experiment or how you can make it more fair, you never change the experiment.
Okay.
Just take what they've given you and see how you can improve on that. Don't do something different because then it's a new experiment.
Okay.
Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So, yeah, ask.
Like, okay, I know this is a completely different subject, but like, in chemistry, they sometimes ask you what variable would you change. So if in biology they were to ask you what variable would you change, then it would obviously be different, right?
What variable would you change to do what?
Like, okay, wait, this is completely different. Okay, wait, never mind, it's very different.
No, because they do ask you in biology about variables in an experiment. So I just want to know, but it depends on what they want you to do with the variables. So it depends on the question.
Okay.
Because if they say in when you're doing an experiment, let me explain it this way. When you're doing an experiment, the thing that you're experimenting on is that one variable, and that variable will have different values. Okay, so in this case, the variable is the different fruits. Okay, but all other variables in this experiment needs to be the same. So the sample sizes needs to be the same. The weight of the sample sizes needs to be the same. The test tubes that you're testing it in needs to be the same. The all the other factors needs to be the same, because the moment you've got two things, so two variables that has different values, then the result of your experiment, is that now due to variable 1 being different or due to variable 2 being different?
Hold on, please repeat that.
Okay, let me explain it. I'm going to do it in terms of photosynthesis.
Okay.
Okay, so if you've got a photosynthesis experiment and you are testing to see the effect of sunlight on photosynthesis, then you need to make sure that the carbon dioxide concentration throughout the whole experiment is the same, that the water content is the same, that the amount of or that the chlorophyll is the same. All of the other things needs to be the same, because if you have the sunlight that differs, so the one has sunlight and the other one doesn't, but you also have different levels of carbon dioxide, and now you test to see if photosynthesis took place. How do you know if the test being positive or negative now is a result of the light, or is it a result of the carbon dioxide? So if there's two things that's different, so the carbon dioxides, the one experiment has a carbon dioxide concentration of 3 and the other one of 4 and the other one of 5, and the one is exposed to light and the other one isn't, then how do you know at the end whether this plant now photosynthesized or not, if that was due to the different concentrations of carbon dioxide, or whether that was due to having sunlight or not having sunlight?
You don't really know.
Exactly.
That's
That's why there's only one variable
Oh, okay.
that has different values in an experiment. So when they want you to improve on an experiment, make sure that there's always just the one variable that's got different values, and all the other things needs to be kept the same as far as possible. So constant and the same. So getting all the sample sizes to be the same size. Because in this case, if the apricot is 1 centimeters cube, but you've tested a pineapple which is 5 centimeters cube, then the pineapple, the results for fiber in the pineapple will be 5 times more than that of the apricot, because the content was 5 times more. So we want to make sure that the only difference is the content in fiber and not the size of the sample.
Okay.
Is that making sense?
Yes, sorry, yeah. Because now I understand how you say it. Because like you said, you don't really know, so that has to be the same. Because if you change it, then the results will be wrong.
Yeah, so if they want you to improve on an experiment, don't start changing things. Just that when you're improving on an experiment, you see how you can get the stuff to be more and more the same, so that it's only that one thing that's got different values, only that one variable.
Okay.
Okay. The alimentary channel consists of many different organs. Look at the diagram of the alimentary channel. So this is part A, then there's a diaphragm, then they mention the small intestine here and the large intestine there. What is the name of part A? So what will this be called?
Your esophagus.
Well done. The stomach is not labeled on the diagram. Draw a label line on the diagram to show the stomach.
Okay, the stomach is underneath the diagram. It's that one that's oddly shaped. It's connected to your esophagus.
Okay, well done. Now, what's important when you do this? When you draw a labeling line, the labeling line is drawn with a ruler, so it's a ruled line. If it's not a ruled line, you lose a mark. Okay? Then the label point here, where you're labeling it, must be on the organ. If your labeling line goes like that, it's not on the organ, it's somewhere in the middle, you'll not get your mark. Or for example, with the esophagus, if they did it like that, if the labeling line looked like that, the label line stops somewhere here in open air, not on the esophagus. You won't get the mark. Okay, so be careful to do that. Draw lines to match the organ with its function. Okay, so the large intestine, the function of the large intestine is that food is mixed up into a creamy liquid, or digested proteins, carbohydrates, and fats and absorb water, amino acids, sugars, and fatty acid, or is it to absorb water, or is it food is chewed into smaller pieces?
Large intestine absorbs water.
Well done. Small intestine.
It digests your proteins, the second bar.
Well done. Very good. Stomach.
Food is mixed up into a creamy liquid.
Well done. Very good. The diagram shows a palisade cell. Here's the palisade cell. Where do we find palisade cells?
It's below your upper epidermis. Isn't it?
Okay. In what? In plants, animals?
Cell.
Sorry?
Plant
Cell.
cell.
Yes, in leaves. Okay. So here we've got the palisade cell. Which three structures labeled in this diagram? This is important because sometimes they would ask, if you now mentioned anything that's not mentioned in this diagram, you won't get the mark for it.
Okay.
Because they tell you three structures labeled in this diagram are not found in animal cells. So which of these will not be found in an animal cell?
Okay. Chloroplast, your vacuole, and your cell wall.
Well done. Very good. Name the part of the cell in which photosynthesis takes place.
Chloroplast.
Well done. And that's it.
Oh, okay.
Did this make sense?
Yes.
Do you understand what I was trying to tell you about when you're answering the questions and how much information you give? Because what happens is, as you want to elaborate, you sometimes go off track. And then you start mentioning things that's not applicable to the question. So then instead of answering the question with fact answers and giving me enough information, you write a lot and you think you've got everything there. But then you got sidetracked, and instead of answering what was asked, you sort of drift off and start telling me other stuff that's not applicable to the question as such. Okay, so try to stick to the facts of that question and make sure that you mention enough points for the marks.
Okay, will do.
Okay. What I will do is, for next week, I will do, it's about the same amount of questions that we can work through next week again. Okay. Do you want to do them beforehand, or is it fine if we do it like this?
I don't mind either way.
Okay, we'll do it like this, and what I'll do is afterwards, as today, I will send you the memo of this.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Please let me know if you've got any other questions.
Okay. I do have